Today's video is on the subject of single point of failure, the weak link in a chain snapping the most powerful chain in the world. North Korean hackers published a backdoored version of something called Axios that was held as an NPM package. And they did this by using a compromised access token that was given a long lifespan. I'm going to break this down a bit, but first I'm going to start with this being based in JavaScript or other scripting languages. If you're not aware of it, a scripting language types out or writes up things that are active pieces of code that are written in such a way you can read them. You can learn to read them. It's like reading a language, and sometimes it's just in the language you're in. In fact, sometimes this code, which again is active runnable code, can be written in multiple human languages, which also may be a problem. Sometimes, but most of the time it's just one. And this means that hypothetically, a person should be able to detect tampering or malware by simply having a reasonably intelligent piece of software or a person read everything first. That might seem like a daunting task on the internet where things change a lot, but in some cases, again, it's a single point of failure. There's a source for a copy of a file that may be a very long text file, a short one, but you can get a group of people to analyze it, prevent a problem, or at least maybe spot one. And you can write algorithms that aren't AI but are good AI that can actually look for this. Just don't give them agency and power. Anyway, the North Korean individuals, translating the previous statement, found out that someone was basically using the equivalent to a cookie to stay able to access something on the internet, got a copy of it, was able to reverse engineer it or tear it apart or work with it and make it to where they could forge being that person, making a modification to a piece of code. So I'm going to bring up some history here. NPM is a package manager. That's a piece of software that allows you to manage the programs you have. For instance, if I'm running a computer like I am now, let's say I was running every version of Windows on it, which is technically possible. I've actually done that. I even did a video about it on a previous channel I had before it was taken down. And let's say I'm running Windows 7 and Windows XP. They have very different pieces of code on them, but I can use a package manager or a software manager or a add and remove program or an app store to grab programs for each version, 32-bit and 64-bit, let's say, or find out the versioning and juggle around the one that works best for a specific thing. If you're not aware of it, on a Windows computer, I can have more than one version of an individual executable file. I can have the one that's on purpose outdated but lets me get away with running old video games like Rust Legacy, which that's literally a thing I've got a video on. If anybody's curious, I'll have that up a while. Odd timing. But I might have newer versions that will make it to where my Windows 7 operating system will try to run Windows 10 and Windows 11 software. That's one of the reasons I might set up a computer with all the operating systems crammed on one drive or a stack of drives so that I can do these experiments. And if you're doing that, you might imagine with a bunch of operating systems and I'm managing the files within them trying to make a hybrid, I would need a manager, a software manager that would handle that. And this is an example of something similar to it. It's a package manager. Okay, so NPM allows you through a command line, a typed up instruction, which is a lot easier to script. Scripts are text files, instruction sets, are a lot easier to run if you're running a bunch of equipment, like a whole bunch of network computers, a bunch of robots building cars, an accounting firm. These become very valuable. And what we do is we use the NPM service on the internet and our copy of the app to manage thousands of computers. So I don't have to go around to each computer and even hit enter. I can just tell them remotely to install software and keep things organized. Some of you are already saying, oh, that must be something you have to maintain safely. Let's move on. NPM, which I'll explain why that confuses me in a minute, is commonly understood to be an abbreviation for Node Package Manager. That's not true. It's a recursive backronym joke. NPM is not an acronym. It was literally just a set of letters in a string. I have another video where I'm going to talk about another one like this. Computing people eventually run out of reasons to give something a name and just throw letters. It's sometimes called throwing SpaghettiOs at the wall and seeing what words come out, or divining the voices, or tea leaving. There's a bunch of names for it, but basically it's the reason you see ads for really weird sounding medications that look like somebody plays Scrabble too much. They really are. This is something where you need to have a unique name with the shortest number of characters in it, and NPM is what they came up with. Now, I want to point out that NPN and a bunch of other variations of it that my brain is screaming at me for electronic parts, other software programs, routines, literally the abbreviation for some command line instructions. We have a very small number of things that are only 3 digits long. Do the math if you want to, but there's 26 combinations for the characters, and there's 3 places. Figure out how many combinations. We've already used them up. So anyway, let's Node package manager. It's just a package manager. So NPM is a package manager for a specific type of program, and it's done as JavaScript and the programming language JavaScript. Now, if you're not aware of programming languages, normally, they're a programming language where you write up something and it looks like human speech almost. Looks like something you can understand. It makes it easier to do. And then you compile it, and it turns into a binary, which has no text in it unless you absolutely need to. And that would be like Java. Java is a binary. Okay. JavaScript is literally just the text file that would be the instructions telling the computer how to build a program and just running it. That's not accurate. Someone's going to type actually and start screaming at me in the comments. But that's really what's going on. It's a set of commands that are done within an environment we're going to call JavaScript, where those commands are read directly and run. This has a disadvantage. It takes up more space. It's not as efficient, blah, blah, blah. The advantage is you can just change stuff and make it work. It's faster to do development and repairs and patches. But it makes it to where any knucklehead can learn it rather easily, which should be the way programming is anyway. And unless you do something to encrypt or encode or lock it away, someone can just edit a text file and cause a disaster. And here we are. So the JavaScript programming language is maintained through lots of sources. One of them uses the NPM package manager to maintain it to where if I have a computer, let's say at a gas station that's handling the pumps and just recording receipts and making the video cameras work, that computer can just grab the JavaScript through the NPM service. Okay? And it can update it if somebody puts up an update. That means some guy, random person over here who's maintaining one package, in this case it's called Axios package, if they make an edit, it will download it. Now I can also tell the package manager I'm using not to use the latest copy, but to download it for safekeeping later and keep dozens of backups. I call it versioning. That's not the proper term again. I'm not going to use the proper terms anybody likes. I'm trying to explain something. Here's the thing. NPM is the default package manager for JavaScript runtime environment utilities and functions, including something called Node.js, which is extremely commonly used. It's in Firefox. It's the bane of my existence. And other utilities. And anyway, it's included as a recommended feature in the Node.js installer. Okay, the NPM thing. So this is very integrated by default in a lot of things. So the service is used by 12 million developers, and GitHub, an organization I've screamed about, in the year 2020 acquired it and made it part of their own little mess. And that means that you have one company that has a bunch of credentials for you to log in and control your code, and another group, and I wonder if they just left everybody kind of separate so they wouldn't have to cross-contaminate by having the same password reused. So anyway, the Korean hackers didn't publish a backdoored version of the Axios NPM package. They injected it into the website that would then provide it to everybody. And they use, quote, a long-lived access token that they compromise. What that means is they got a hold of someone's password and login combo as a hash, most likely. Not necessarily, I could be totally wrong. What is a hash? Let's say I tell you my password is password and my login is login. You can run this through a routine that makes it an irreversible math routine that turns it into a string of numbers and letters. Now, you may have that string of numbers and letters, and that confirms if I type in the password and login to your server, it will run the same hash, so the server doesn't know what my password and login is. It only knows that hash. That's all it needs. And all it needs is, in that session, it has to keep the session trustworthy between me and it. Only I could send that hash code, unless someone simply copied it. And the thing is, copying it is not simple to do. It also doesn't last for a long time, because that would be dumb, because someone could steal it and just break into my account. So this was a long-lived version of probably not a hash, but something like it. It's credentials. And they use this relatively long-lived. Long-lived could have been 2 minutes. Okay, it could have been 20 seconds. To get in and go to the person who was maintaining this Node.js utility, blah, 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 on that page on like GitHub or whatever, and put in one edit into it that would let them be able to very quietly and not get caught, very stealth mode, break into a bunch of systems and try to look for specific people they're going after to grab their credentials to do the same thing to them without involving this. And then it would self-destruct and cover its tracks, and hopefully they wouldn't get caught. But we now know it's North Koreans, and obviously they fucked up somehow. So, now that I've spent almost 12 minutes explaining this, all the backstory, let's get on with the next part of it. Axios is a promise-based web client. It's called HTTP client. It's a web client. It's like a web browser. It's a promise-based client for Node.js. Okay? And the browser, it's isomorphic. It can run in the browser and Node.js with the same code base. What it means is they can just write it once and have it work 2 places. And the Axios software, if you want to look it up, is at axios-http.com/doc/intro. I think actually that domain name and everything is actually kind of an in-joke, by the way, but I won't go into it. So it involves Axios, a package manager named NPM that's going through GitHub, and it's involving Node.js that was maintained by essentially one human being on the planet that had a password, login, or whatever credentials, and an access token is what they're calling it. And it was made long-lived enough that someone could essentially copy it somehow, which shouldn't be able to happen, and then go ahead and use it to go in and just alter Node.js or whatever, Axios, the Axios utility, whatever. And it had an effect on a bunch of different things that weren't necessarily intentional, but it's supposed to delete itself and hide itself, and it was supposed to attack specific targets so that they could get more credentials and then use those credentials separately. Instead of just using one thing, they would all go off and there'd be hundreds of them attacking from North Korea. Okay, that should get you up to speed. So, what is the practical interest or use for any of you to know any of this? A single point of failure means there's a thing that if you compromised it, it would fuck up more than one thing. That's all. That was an individual having an access token or a password to log in, or just the hash floating around that you can't reinterpret it, get the password to log in, but it's definitely usable as literally a blunt instrument to break into stuff. That happened. A single point of failure for this person's credentials caused a single point of failure through potentially every hunk of JavaScript on the planet because it let people have access to their computers. And again, there were specific targets, but it could affect a lot more. And like I said, it's 12 million developers that are using the service, and it's about 1 million a day download that same file a day. So that was 1 million compromised systems minimum. Okay, so that should get you up to speed. It's not a note going off, but it is pretty bad. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. I'll leave a few links below in the description. Bye.